Welcome to the Root and the Flame show, where old style conjure meets fire at the crossroads. And baby, that's where the real magic plays.
Sometimes I walk all by myself. I don't want to talk to no one else. And I close my eyes and I feel the spirit rise.
Mama Star. Y'all, let me set the scene real quick. She's the root, the backbone, the living library of conjure herself. Straight out of Winnie, Texas. Running oldstyleconjure.com, dropping books with Wiser, and keeping the tradition alive for decades. Mama Star don't play. She is the foundation. Now here comes the flame. Gary Noriyuki, longtime student of Mama Star, burning bright out of Connecticut. He's the force behind Manicore's Den, mixing ceremonial tattoo, conjure, and straight up animist fire. Appointment only, y'all, cause the flame don't burn casual. And then we got the crystal clarity, Katie, another student of Mama Star, holding it down in Kernville, California with Dress Your Soul. She's blending spirit and craft, insight and heart. Katie brings the shimmer, the shine, the soulful spark that makes this circle glow. You're listening to The Root and the Flame. Now let's go.
All right, welcome to episode 6 of The Root and the Flame. Today we're going to talk about oils and powders in practice. And to get us started, Mama Star, would you like to pray us in?
Yeah, Lord, it's us again. Here we are. And we ask that you bless this radio show, that you bless each one of us, and you bless those that are going to listen to it with a wisdom of understanding and knowledge, and that you cover this show with your strong hand. Amen.
All right, thank you so much. Welcome, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. We're looking forward to a great show today. We've got a lot of good questions at the end that you've sent in. Thanks so much for sending those in. And of course, we're going to talk about, we'll do some bibliomancy. Gary will pull us a card today. Mama Star is going to talk about a prophet. And then we'll jump into our oils and powders today. And we'll move into crystals and an herb or a root. And then we'll jump into our questions. So that's going to be the format today, and we're all looking forward to a great show. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you. Mama Star, you want to do some bibliomancy?
Okay. Lord, come on, show us what we need to know today. Give us the word. Give us the word. Okay, this is Psalms 22. Now, I don't really work with the Psalms. I work with a few of them. But this says, for the leader according to the kind of the dawn, the Psalm of David. Okay. My God, why have you forsaken me? Far from my prayers, from the words of my cry. My God, I cry out by day, and you answer not, by night, and there is no relief for me. Yet you are enthroned in the holy place. O glory of Israel. In you our fathers trusted. They trusted and you delivered them. To you they cried and they escaped. In you they trusted and they were not put to shame. But I am a worm, not a man, the scorn of men, despised by the people. All who see me scoff at me. They mock me with parted lips. They wag their heads. He relied on the Lord. Let him deliver him. Let him rescue him if he loves him. You have been my guide since I was first formed, my security at my mother's breast. To you I was committed at birth from my mother's womb. You are my God. Be not far from me, for I am in distress. Be near, for I have no one to help me. Many bullocks surround me. The strong bulls of Bashan encircle me. They open their mouths against me like raven and roaring lions. I am like water poured out. All of my bones are wrapped. My heart has become like wax, melting away from my bosom. My throat is dried up like baked clay. My tongue cleaves to my jaws. To the dust of death you have brought me down. Indeed, many dogs surround me. A pack of evildoers closes in upon me. They have pierced my hands and my feet. I can count all my bones. They look on and gloat over me. They divide my garments among them, and for my ventures they cast lots. But you, O Lord, be not far from me. O my help, hasten to aid me. Rescue my soul from the sword of loneliness, from the grip of the dog. Save me from the lion's mouth, from the horns of the wild bulls, my wretched life. Now, were we not just speaking on something like this? God, it's crazy. This is just crazy. So I feel like what this is saying is if you trust in God long enough, your prayers will be answered. And no matter how bad things seem, no matter who battles against you, the asses can't stand up against God. God is good all day long, all day.
It's interesting how it brought in casting lots, which is exactly what we spoke about in the last episode.
Yep.
I was just like, I was gasping the whole time that you were reading. And I was following along in my mom's Bible, which is written a little bit differently. But there's a piece where like you feel like there's no relief and like
Yeah.
woe is me and the trust isn't there. And in the
Yep.
end, I was like, please give us some resolution. Please give us some resolution here.
Yep.
So in the end, if you just trust, it's all there.
Yep, it's all there. It's always there. Any spirit or any God that you call, and I said any God, I believe there's one true God with many different names. So it doesn't matter what name you call them, they're there. They're going to be there. They're not always going to be up front fast because let's admit, if everything came easy and there was no battles, there was no growing in our life, we would become stagnant. We would take every single thing in our lives for granted. So we got to, that's how we grow. God shows us these battles, we win the battles, we move forward. It strengthens us for the next battle that we've got to go through. And there's always going to be a battle. Because there's always going to be somebody that's not going to like you. There's always going to be somebody that's going to pray against you. Always. That's just the way it is. So in order to be blessed and to come out on top, you have to stay prayed up. You have to do your spiritual work. You have to stay on top of your own spiritual life because nobody else can do that. And nothing is free in this life. You get exactly what you give. If you give bullshit, you're going to be loaded down with it. If you trust in God and you move forward and you do the work, you're going to grow. That doesn't mean everything's going to be sugary sweet, but that means that you're going to come out of it and you will come out of it on top.
Awesome. On that note, Gary, how do you feel about moving into a card pull for the day?
Well, I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right.
Let me shuffle real quick. All right. The card I pulled for this episode is the Nine of Spades. In the old style way, that's a working card. It shows up when something's heavy on you, when worry or trouble's been hanging around too long. But a spade doesn't mean disaster. It means get to work. You pick yourself up, you clean, you cut, and fix what needs to be fixed. That fits right into what we're talking about today, oils and powders. Before you draw luck or love, you gotta clean off what's been clinging to you. This card reminds us that power comes through the hands, through doing the work, not just thinking about it.
Yep. And anytime you start a new endeavor, you should always do a cleansing before you start. So that card is spot on, and that card goes along with the Bible verse. It all blends together, and that happens a lot on this show. It's like God has a message and he delivers it to us.
Well, as you know, I don't know how to read the cards, so I'm going to trust your tutelage and say you guys nailed it. So our next segment is discussing a saint or a prophet.
Okay, today is King Solomon, and I want to give a little backstory about him, who his father was, before we go into him. So everybody knows the story about David and Goliath. So I grew up on that story, and it really stuck with me. And I said, Lord, if I have a firstborn son, I'm going to name him David. And that's exactly what I did, because I was raised to believe that names hold power. King David was Solomon's daddy. So everybody knows the story about how he beat Goliath, but do you really understand that story? So, if you look in 1 Samuel 17, verse 4, what happened was they were at war. The other side had Goliath. King Saul told David to come out on the field, and he was decked out all in his armor, had his sword, and was ready to go. But he hadn't tested that armor or tested that sword. And so he started taking all that off, and he told King Saul, no, I'm not going to wear this because it's not been tested. So he put his bag on him, had a slingshot in there, and he walked down to a little water thing, picked up 5 smooth stones, y'all, 5. Catch the number 5. And so he goes back and he loads one of the stones. Now understand, Goliath was all loaded down. He had his helmet on, he had his big sword, he had all these things going for him. But David trusted in God's word enough, followed what God told him to do, put a rock in his slingshot, drew back, let the fly, and it hit Goliath right in the center of his forehead and knocked him down, sword, and cut his head. Then all the enemy took off. So Solomon is known for his wisdom. There's actually a root that root workers work with called Solomon's seal root. And so for me, I like to talk to him whenever it comes to doing success work and being on the fence about something, because he's always going to show me. So they say that he's credited with Proverbs and the Songs of Solomon. Now, I work with the Songs of Solomon often, like real often. There's only 8 of them. But those Songs of Solomon were originally written, I think, for love songs, for home life, for bringing things back that are lost. If you look in 1 Kings 3, verses 1 through 15, it talks about Solomon asking God for wisdom. He could have had anything that he wanted, he could have had, but he simply wanted the wisdom to be fair and to do the things that he needed to do. He was very powerful, and he was a very powerful king, but he had a hiccup. So he In turn, Solomon was great, did everything that he needed to do for his people and everything except he was interested in foreign women who believed in foreign gods. He actually had, and y'all, I'm not kidding you, First Kings verse 11 tells us 700 wives of royal birth and 300 concubines. I think he was kind of hooked on Jezebel too, unless I'm misunderstanding. So what happened was he kind of got on the fence where God was concerned because he started dabbling in all these mysteries from all these foreign countries instead of the wisdom that God gave him. But he was very powerful because, when God gives you something, he won't take it back. He might dim that light. He might make you work to get it back, but it's still there. So I believe that Solomon never lost that wisdom. And I believe that he was born because King David was his father. He was born with a power when he was born. He just kind of got sidetracked. But he was never, God always favored him, even though he didn't do exactly what he was supposed to do. And so that, my friends, is all I'm telling you about Solomon. If you want to know more, get in the Bible and find it.
That's fascinating. Thank you. Wow, he's a hard charger.
Yep.
Gary, did you want to add anything to that?
Well, it was just interesting how this king dabble in foreign wisdom, and he was attracted to that. Like I definitely understand the appeal, as I dabble in foreign wisdom myself. But one of the things that come to mind is the root that is named after him. And in my works in the past, and since I've learned about him from you, it's been that is the wisdom, being able to bring back to center because, yeah, we might wonder, but we also want to be knowledgeable of where we need to go back, go back to basics, go back to the things that you started with, which is something that I constantly do, as I experience other types of practices, I often look back to conjure because it's been the base and it's been the root, and which is why I believe strongly in this as the root of conjuring practice and an ancestral practice as well.
All right, awesome. So the main topic of the day is oils and powders.
So I'll talk about whenever I first learned how to make oils. I did not learn how to make oils like they're made today. There was no fractionated any kind of oil. It was lard, grease. That's all there was. And then they came out with a more refined cooking oil. So the way I was taught to make oils was to load up a jar with the roots and herbs, whatever you were adding to that jar, Bible verses, prayers, whatever it was, cover it with oil, close that jar up, put that jar in a double boiler, place the fire, start the fire boiling first, then cut the fire down low. Let that simmer, shaking it regularly, opening the jar up, saying your prayers, your petitions over that oil, closing it back, and letting it work. Then you strain the oil out, and it was ready to go. You didn't need essential oils or none of that because the prayer and the petitions and the roots and herbs and dirt did the job for you. Hardly nobody, my students do, I know for sure, add dirt and sticks and stuff to their oils and powders. So for me, sometimes the old way is the better way. And when I'm working for myself, I work the old way. I work the tools and things that I first learned to work with as a young worker. I go back to my foundation. But as modern times come in, you have to modernize the product, or the people don't understand the product. And if they don't understand it, then they're not going to utilize it.
So I learned how to make the oils and the powders, of course, from you and your teachings. And along the ways, things have shifted a little bit, but in accordance through divinations and guidance of ancestors or patron spirits that I have. And it sort of cooks in a different type of fire. There's a time period of that, at least the base time period that I use, which is, sticking to the 21 days in order to begin something. And then I check it again with divination. But I do add different layers depending on what divination came. The very beginning, I used to use very basic herbs, like small numbers, not too crazy. But as I further grew on the practice, like the recipes have changed a lot, and the elements that have been added to it also, which includes sometimes odd things such or out of the ordinary, from what is perceived out there, in the availability of oils. Might include more like dirts, more ash, different types of oils that I have gathered of different things, different type of items and stones and other materia that compose some other bottle, which after working however long the divination dictates, then it's open to being able to transfer it to another bottle to let it rest, and that one is available to the public. But yeah, that's pretty much the base. I have started in keeping those basics in mind always, and asking my spirits, like in the best way that I could maneuver things to have a successful oil in the end, and then test it out myself.
Betty girl, you got anything to add?
Well, since we're talking about our herbal origin theories, lore, I started exploring herbs in Chinatown in Chicago. They have a really nice Chinatown. My mom would take me down there, and like all those beautiful bottles and the scents were so great. And I was a pretty free range child. So at about like 10 years old, I could take the train around and get off at Chinatown and like go through those herbs and ask questions. And they have little books and I take little notes. And that's what started my love of herbs. But then I could learn like what was in the yard and what was my grandma doing with these herbs on the side. So it began like a lifelong practice of experimenting and seeing what is valuable to me, what helps others. But Mama Star, I wanted to comment about what you said about like adding the modern stuff to it. There's also something to be said for maybe you don't have the lard on the stove, and that shouldn't stop you from doing your work. That is certainly a lesson from you is don't let anything stop you.
No, nothing should ever stop you. Whatever you got to do, you do it. Nowadays, folks are not going to buy products made the old way. They're spoiled. They like the fractionated coconut oil. They like all that thin oil that's healthy and all that. But I still use some of my basic training for my old clients that have been with me 20, 25, 30 years. Because when I started out giving them my products, that's the products they got. So if I give them the new age, what I call new age 2025 oil or salve, they're like, what is this?
Dyed water.
So, yeah. So you have to adjust to the times, and times are changing, and you have to be able to adjust to those and to mold your craft to that, because if you don't, then you're just going to be left behind. That's what I think.
Yeah, often I have experienced that people ask me, the scent of my oils, and I kind of chuckle a little if they're in person, they see me chuckle, but I'm like, that's not necessarily the aim of the oil, it's more of like what it does. And, like in the manner that I've had, there are some personal recipes that I started way back when I first met you, because that's when I started, and that oil is that long, and it has been now transferred into other oils, and it has become like a blend of its own. down the stream of money driving oil. Like I have like different versions, but whatever a little bit of oil was left in the old bottle, like I transfer it to a new one and then rebuild it from then on and stuff like that. Sometimes there might be a scent to it, but at the same time, like I started those with olive oil because that's how you taught me, like
Yes.
and so adding to that and modifying it down the line and stuff like that, it has gained a scent of its own with all the herbal matter. But like, that's never been my focus. So it's always been odd for me to answer that question, because like now I have kind of like added to some, but it's it's not something that I would rather do, stuff like that, because I'm more on what it does and my experiences that I have gotten with some of these oils.
Well, I tried the heavy scent, and a lot of my clients complained about it because the scent was so strong. So I don't add no essential oils in my base container. It's all roots and herbs and dirt. So if it gets a smell, it got a smell from what's inside there, not because I added anything to it.
I will sometimes blend oils, not for the intention of the smell, just for the intention itself. Like you guys, if it smells good, great. If it smells like garbage, it's still going to do its job.
Oh yeah, it's all about the power of the prayer and the ingredients that goes into it.
Do you have a favorite herb to work with?
It depends on what I'm doing. If I have a client that's real agitated, aggravated all the time, I like to work with lavender. I found that works. I will make a salve out of it and instruct them to rub it on the bottom of their feet and the back of their shoulders and the crown of their head. And if it's for wisdom, Solomon seal root every time. It's going to be Solomon seal root. And you can work that root and program it to where it will do whatever you need doing, but that's another show.
To add to lavender, if somebody's getting started on their herbal path, lavender is one of those herbs that can do so many different things. So we can't rush out and buy a million herbs at once. But if you want to start with like a very small toolkit, lavender can help with your sleep, can help with your psychic abilities, can help with your menstrual cycle, can help with anxiety. So yeah, that's one of those powerhouses, I think.
Yeah. Gary, you got a favorite herb?
Well, I was gonna add on the lavender that is also good for transition. I found, on experiences that it eases the way to transitioning thing, but also transition into many other things. It's a very helpful herb. I love working with bay leaves. Bay leaves are, something that I keep in mind for whenever I'm taking on a new journey in order to open my path, in order to have to be ready for whatever could be in my road as well. But also, like a good way to keeping my mind sharp, and if I have something that I am hunting for, some sort of knowledge, some sort of wisdom, then I also add it to my toolkit in order to open my path to achieve that. So that would be my one.
Yeah, bay leaf is good. That's old school. That is one of the herbs that I first learned to work with. Yeah, that's old school. I agree with you on that. Katie girl?
I'm being drawn to mention mugwort. I'm not sure if like that's coming like it's a plant that's local to here, so I often see it in the river. So I'm not sure what she's up to, but I really like that for feminine needs, for dream work. It was used in sweat lodges here.
Now that we have talked a little bit about oils and stuff, let's move to the powder part. For powders, I love working with the herb itself and using a lot of herb and grinding it in order to make a powder of its own. I've found many times, when I take a chance and I purchase a powder at random, that like is just chalk, colored chalk with scent. Or sometimes it is talcum and stuff like that. So for me, it's mostly the herb itself in order to create a powder, but basing it on, of course, herbs and roots after elimination, and keeping in mind where my goal is.
Powders are made from dirt, ground roots and herbs, so you're not far from it. That's what they were truly made with. And the reason I think that they were made sometimes with dirt was so you could drop a trick, because a long time ago, the yards didn't have a bunch of grass like they have now in the country. They had dirt. So you could make up a powder and drop that powder and nobody would never know it. They'd walk in it and track it in the house. That's why I grew up having to sweep the yard, and that yard had to be swept, and it had to be swept from back to front, and you swept everything out to the road to get rid of anything that was hidden that had been dropped, because powders were made of powdered roots and herbs, dirt, things like that that they had. But if you dropped it in the yard, it was unrecognizable. You just walked right in it and tracked it everywhere. So, yeah, I think powder should always be made the old school ways. I don't scent my powders. Roots, herbs, whatever I put in there, scent them. Because I don't put no kind of scent in them.
The grinding mechanism in the pestle and mortar, where you like add your stuff and your intentions, is just so meditative and so powerful and beautiful. I just love to do that if I'm like making a little bath bag or a tea or whatever, or making up some little incense. Have you guys made incense cones?
I have a long time ago. I don't know more, but I used to a long time ago.
I love it. Love it.
I used to make all my stuff a long time ago, but I've kind of got modernized a little. I'm not going to say a lot, but a little bit. But I'm not far off track from the way I was raised and the work and stuff that I was taught to do. I'm still basically that hillbilly old Southern woman that keeps everything the same.
I just got a box of herbs in the mail today. So, like, it's so easy to get that, and you know what you need, you know what you want, you whip it up and make whatever. But if you go harvest it out of your yard, if you go look for it along the river or in the mountains, it's just so much more powerful. But at the same time, you need your stuff. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like it was in the old days where the mother stayed at home and she was able to do all that stuff. Everybody works now. Everybody works. So you have to change the way you get supplies and stuff, but you don't have to change the foundation of the work.
Yeah, that's a good point that you bring out, Katie. Harvesting, stuff along in either your backyard or your local land. There's been a couple of things that I have collected after leaving offerings for either the land at a local forest that I have visited many times prior to taking something. And using it in my conjure work or other type of magics that I do, there definitely brings a different type of feeling and a different type of oomph to it, because I believe that it brings the wild aspects of it, like especially when it is harvested from the woods and stuff. It comes into contact with different animals, and it comes into contact with the moon itself, with the stars, with the elements, which are many powerful elements that we work with. And what better to have it from the wild, like when it has also fought, other things in order to survive. There's also a difference between the herbs that are growing outside from the ones that you grow within, like your home. I have found that some of them bring a little bit of a different pattern to the leaves and show different types of color on the veins that they have. I think that flags a little bit more on the wild side, more on the primitive side. So I make it at a point to, like, at the beginning, if I can get it from the store, whatever, like I'll use that and stuff like that. But whenever I get a chance in order to get it locally, if I have come into contact, I take advantage of it. Back in the day when I used to live in either Houston or Galveston, I didn't had the chance to be able to get that. Sometimes I did to just stroll around town and shit, and stuff. I had to be able to come across some things, and I will see where they are and then come back later on and stuff like that. And I'll add it to my things, which is kind of like became a thing and a habit for me. And now that I live in Connecticut, like I go through different places that have mysterious names and associations with the devil. But yes, like it is interesting experiences for sure, that this brings to the material, to the final product, especially when you are mixing it and growing. And over the years, it has grown a specific feeling around the bottle that you have built. over time.
Yep. Okay.
What are your thoughts on people handling the hot foot powder in the manner
Oh,
that you have created it, and being entry level at conjure and thinking this is the answer for this?
okay. I can't speak for other folks' hot foot powder, but I can tell you mine, and I'm not bragging, I'm stating facts, is not something that you play around with. So let me give you an example. One of my adopted kids over here was trying to get rid of a neighbor, and because it was the right thing to do, because the neighbor was harassing them. She had little kids at the time, and it was just an ugly situation. So I told her to let me go sprinkle the powder for her. Nope. You know, when folks learn a little bit, they think they know what they're doing. So I gave her the powder. I was like, okay, you want it? I gave it to her. I told her exactly what to do. I told her to wear gloves. She decided not to wear gloves and went over there and sprinkled it and hot-footed her own self out of her own house. Another client, somebody that's really close to me that I worked for, same thing, knows a little bit of stuff, wouldn't listen to what I was telling her, moved out of the whole state for a whole year, left a home that was paid for, moved out of the state for a whole year and then came back. Hot foot is not to play with. People think that is something easy and simple, and it's been taught that it's not going to affect you. If it's made right, I even have to be careful when I'm making it, because if it's made right, you're going somewhere. So I stopped making it where folks can touch it. I put it in a jar. They can work the jar and get the same effect, but I don't have to worry about them driving theirself off of their own land and stuff because they don't listen to instruction. Yeah, that's the hot foot.
So I had my own personal experience with the recipe you taught me.
Lord, here we go.
I didn't hot foot myself out, but I experienced the heat of it at random times when I came in contact with the damn bottle. So I had made the bottle and stuff like that, and of course I worked it for a period of time, and I had it ready in my my cabinet of powders, for whatever I needed them and stuff like that. And I had used it once before, which is I know why it works, and it works beautifully, and it did the job that needed to be done. Injustice, always injustice, and it was a last resort type of deal. So now, from a little bottle that I had made like this, it grew into a mason jar. And one time I was shifting my office around. It was COVID time, actually. I was moving my stuff around, and I touched the bottle and stuff like that, and just to move it, in order to clean the cabinets and whatever. And when I put it back, he gave me this upsetting feeling, and it wouldn't come to mind that I had touched the bottle itself, but it's almost like I was looking to pick up a fight within my home. And every little thing became an issue. And, and after a while of feeling like that, I started thinking, this is not normal. This is not how I am. What the hell is going on and stuff like that. And then I started thinking what I did. And I remember I touched this bottle, and then I had to do cleansing on myself, a strong cleansings and stuff like that. And I had to rub the bottle itself, to keep it away from anybody else coming into contact within my home, because I had experienced that. So it is something that people ask me, and it's not something that I make available.
Because you have to be responsible, when you make products like that. And I only give my recipe to my students, long-time students. If you've just taken one or two classes with me and I don't know you well, that's not a class we're going to take.
No, I
So
was
yeah,
thinking about-
hot foot is a trip. I'm sorry, Katie.
That's okay. I was just going to mention it's a good idea to have like a general blessing oil always available. You never know when you're going to need that.
Right.
Often you'll need that. But if you have some work going, it's good to feed your work with just a little oil.
Well, when you're dealing with hot foot powder, you definitely need to clean your hands good and you need to draw a blessing back in. That's a great point. That is a great, because I've worked this work so long, to me, everything seems natural. But to folks who are just starting this work, that is a great point.
Yeah. So how you mentioned, like the use of gloves, stuff like that. Definitely, I should have thought about that whenever I was mishandling my jars, and it's something that I keep in mind nowadays. I clean my jars constantly and make sure that they don't have anything outside.
Yeah, no
Because
residue on them.
yeah, it's exactly what had happened, which in the past you have taught, how to make these things inside bags and stuff like that, like Ziploc bags. But of course, like wasn't thinking of that because I was just in the mood of like, let's get this going and stuff like that. And, like I overstepped the, protocol for, cross contamination, the magical parts, which of course I had ever since, like transfer over. I am very, very, very picky on the way that I work. And, like my office has to be specifically clean before I do anything. Anybody that has worked with me locally knows this, but it's for that reason. It's because I've had experiences of weirdness, like as a sorcerer and stuff like that. It sounds nice, like, oh, you're gonna make your own things and stuff like that. But well, you also get to experience the weirdness of your own creations if you start putting the work on them the way that is taught by the elders.
And not just hot foot, y'all, but confusion oil, any of those types of things, products, you need to really be careful with those because it can affect you. And I've made hot foot powder or hot foot jars before, and it's literally made me hot-headed. Like when Chuck would come home, I'd be like, huh, okay. And he'd just look at me, turn around and go back outside. We're not doing this today. But yeah, you have to be careful with that stuff. You just have to. You can't be free willy with it.
Okay. One little thing I wanted to mention was, Mama Star will always talk about like hiding your tricks. Something that I like to do, those clear Christmas ornaments. I'd like to put some herbs in there for like peace and tranquility. So for the holidays, because I don't know, I'm thinking about the holidays a lot now. For the holidays, when people come over, there can be some turmoil in the home. So just to set up that intention to like keep it cute, but it's hidden because it just looks like pretty little flower petals in there.
That's a good point that you bring, Katie, especially as we're going now into the seasons of bringing people together, as family,
Or separating people that shouldn't be together.
But also, that's a good way because you are thinking in the conjurer aspect, like of laying a trick, which is what that means. Like it's putting a trick. All right, that things can get crazy. So figured out a way to ease out some of those weirdness when people come together. You know that there's always something or someone, like that, might have this weird energy around them and which might drain you. And then afterwards you feel like so exhausted. Of course there was a lot of work because, like his family getting together, coming to eat or and stuff like that and talking. But also the extra, like of what they might be carrying around from their past, couple of months or whatever, if they come from work and now they're having to switch to try to like enjoy a time with family. And sometimes that shifting gear is not necessarily there, like which carries on whatever they might have already, their stresses, the weird energy and stuff like that. And, like that might transfer over to whoever is in your household. So it's a good way of fixing your house, the way that you have mentioned that. Also in the past, I have heard Mama Star speaking about fixing images like and putting them in the homes. So if you have an image of a family portrait and stuff like that, what better way to use that to bless it? Like, and use some herbs such as lavender, which we haven't spoken about, and some of the oils, not on the picture itself, so that you don't ruin it, but like on like either a bay leaf, put it behind the picture and stuff like that. That way, like things are good and in line, and there's not so much clash. It's the way that you are activating the herb itself. So yeah. Good things to keep in mind.
Good information, y'all.
So talking about oils And powders, I was thinking about what crystal would be good to amplify the energy and work with multiple allies to add to whatever work that you're doing. I wanted something like really general that can help with almost any intention. And for me, one of those powerful, it's kind of, I don't know, I feel like it's a cousin to the lavender. Amethyst has a lot of those similar properties. It's one of the master healing crystals. Almost any intention you could think of, you can use with amethyst. So it can amplify all of the other stones, any of the other stones, and you can use it for prosperity, for grounding. It's super versatile for all sorts of things. And you can tune into your psychic abilities. It can help you kick addiction. It's very good for protection, anti-anxiety, dream work. It's just like one of those crystals. If you're going to build a crystal department, you definitely want to have an amethyst in there to get you started. So here is an example of an amethyst. This is chevron amethyst. I love those little teeth on there. And here's a good, more translucent one that's got a lot of nice flash in there. See those rainbows up on top?
Yeah, beautiful.
You can get that good dream work going. And one of the ways that you can work with it is this is gigantic. Let's see if I can lift it up. This is an amethyst cathedral.
Oh
so
my
you
goodness.
can, like, if you've made a packet, or if you've made up an oil or something like that, you can drop it into this big cathedral, which is like a gigantic portal, and let that charge it up and work on it. If you don't have something that big, I love these little things, these little oil bottles. So you can put your intentional oils in here and let the amethyst amplify the energy of whatever your intentions are going on in there. Another way you can work with them is to like build a grid. I have a photo of some work that I was doing. So you can sort of see the salve that I was making, and then I have the crystals around it.
Yeah, I see that.
Charging to the center to get all that good energy going. So it amplifies whatever you're working on and adds to the energy, obviously. And then this is not an amethyst, but I wanted to show you another way that you could work with oils or herbs. If you mix up your potions, you can just drop it into the bottle.
That's pretty.
Wear those around. I think that's about all I wanted to say about amethyst in the ways that I work with it. You can also take just like little bitty chips and just drop that into whatever pouch you're working on, whatever bath bag you have going on. You can throw little chips in there to add to it.
Amethyst I know about, and I like it, and it kind of reminds me of lavender. The feel of it. It's soothing. So it kind of reminds me of lavender.
They're good partners.
Yeah.
Love using them together.
Could believe that. Yeah, that's one crystal that I know about is amethyst. I'm real drawn to it.
Yeah, they're powerful. And we've talked about the little portals in the crystals. You can take your oils, since we're talking about oils, you can take your oils and just feed those little portals to keep that energy of whatever the spell work is that you're working on.
But you know, Katie, that little bottle that you just showed us, that might be good if it was loaded with a trick and you were somewhere and you just happened to leave it there, you know?
The little poison ring.
Yeah. So that might be a good tool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. Look
sure.
at that, thinking about ways of using those tricks. You know, always a conjurer.
Always a conjurer. Yes, always a conjurer.
Did you guys want to mention anything about minerals or contribute to that?
The root I'm bringing out for this episode ain't really a root at all. It's brimstone or sulfur. Old-timers kept it for cutting gossip, breaking crossings, clearing out mess. You don't need that much, just a little pinch mixed with the powder or a dab in your oil. It's that fire kick that burns through stagnation. You use it when the air around you feels thick, when folks been stirring up talk. It's not about burning folks up, it's about burning through what binds you. Same energy as the Nine of Spades. Take the trouble work with your hands and turn it into movement. I've used it in times before for cutting and clear in my own experiences from things. And it's always helped, in either moving on and moving on from either a situation or a person so that I can continue my path. Sometimes there is attachments, like after trying to physically move on forward and stuff like that. And sulfur has always been one of those things that I have used. And if I haven't been able to come into the actual thing, I always resort to using matches because that's something that I also learned, like using the matches heads into things, And if I don't have a thing, like I'm always thinking of other ways of using it and what has it as well.
Matches are a old-timey thing, but when you're dealing with sulfur, you got to remember you got to open a window or door because it is going to drive whatever is there out, and it's got to have somewhere to go. When you strike a match, that little puff of smoke can be blown out the open door, and it's going to clear the house. It's going to clear it out. So in the old days when I was coming up, sulfur was burned inside the house. We now know, with health issues and all that it's not feasible to do that. But you can put it in oils, as Gary said, and you can use matches, especially those big long ones that you light stuff outside with. Those are good ones because you can let it burn for a little while before it gets to your fingertips.
The bayou been whispering. Spirits been stirring. Y'all dropped your questions in the water, now let's see what crawls out the mist.
Okay, great. So we've gotten some questions sent to the Root and the Flame Instagram. Send questions there if you have more. The first question is regarding bibliomancy. A listener asked if you could expand a bit on your practice of bibliomancy. How do you personally prepare for it? Do you ask a question first and then open the Bible? Or is there a deeper process behind how you receive those messages?
I hold the Bible in both of my hands, and I keep myself prayed up. But you should say a personal prayer, hold the Bible in both of your hands, and I was taught to blow 3 breaths on the Bible because that links you to the Word. And then you just ask God to show you what you need to know, and you open it up. Wherever your eyes fall, that's where you start reading. The first line that you see is where you start reading. And y'all, this is not something new that started. This is old-timey stuff. The old folks used to put stuff in the Bibles. I was looking in my Bible when we were getting ready to do this radio show for the first time, and I found a little letter in there that my godson had wrote me when he was like 14 years old. And I stuck it in there, and we had family day one day, and I took it and I showed it to him. And he was like, Madrina, what is that? I was like, read it. He started looking at it, and he was like, where'd you get this from? I said, I got it out of my Bible. He was like, out of your Bible? I said, yes, I put it in there to keep you safe. He was like, Lord, I barely remember writing this, Madrina. He said, and I misspelled a bunch of words. And so we had a good laugh over it. But I put it right back in the Bible. And so that's really what it is. When I say working with the Bible can offer protection. I have my grandmother's old Bible, and within that Bible, I found pictures of us. I found tickets to some fair. Guess somebody wanted to go to the fair, and Grandma put the ticket or the advertisement in the Bible where they could get the money to go to the fair. But yeah, there's more to it than just opening the Bible up. People don't talk about that. The Bible is a sacred thing. And so you can draw blessings with it. Or you could draw destruction, but I'm not going to talk about that. Not in this show. We're talking about wisdom and power but yeah, the Bible is a big thing. So I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, I've seen Also, the way that you work with the Bible in person. I remember when you taught me to do that. And, it was my first experience at getting a feel for that spirit essence around me and in holding the Bible and really laying my eyes on the scriptures and thinking of my question and how it resonated to it. Yeah.
Yeah,
It is an experience.
right. I don't teach that to everybody. My students that have been with me for a long time, I do. It's just, it takes time to learn. You can't just do it one time and boom, you know. You have to practice that. It's like everything else. You have to continue to do it and you have to understand what the words are saying and what they mean within the scope of your life or what's going on with your life.
I just wanted to say that I had my mom's Bible today too when you chose out your passage so that I could read along with you. And there's a recipe for pickles in here.
Really? Hey, somebody want to make good pickles. I'm telling you, the old folks saved things that meant something in the Bible. They just did because they felt like that's where I learned it from. They felt like it was a place for safety. Like my grandma's Bible had a picture of my uncle PD that died in the war. She had his picture in that Bible. I've never taken it out. Never. I've left everything just like she had it. But it was for his safety, And so, I don't know, it's just stuff that I grew up with that I teach because it needs to be passed on or it's going to be lost or it's going to be mixed and mocked so much till the foundation of it is no longer going to be there.
Well, I'm going to take this pickle recipe as a message from the ancestors that they want some pickles on their altar.
Shoot, I want some pickles, some homemade pickles.
Oh, pickles. Not really my thing.
Since we mentioned ancestors, question number 2 addresses ancestors. Another listener wanted to know what really defines an ancestral practice. And for someone beginning to build that relationship, what's the most important thing to keep in mind while forming it?
Well, I think that we should all honor our ancestors, known and unknown. And I don't look at honoring my ancestors as a practice per se. It's just something that I do that's natural and that I was raised to do, to always honor our dead kinfolks. As long as you honor them and think about them, then they still live on. That's just how my mama raised us. So I don't know, but if you're talking about honoring your ancestors and you don't know what you're doing, well, the first place to start is to call on them. They might not want you bothering them. You always have to call and ask first, and you call all of them. I call on all my ancestors, known and unknown. Those who are willing to come, please come. Give them a candle, give them a glass of water, something cool to drink, and then move from there. You give them what they had in life, what they like. I don't know. It's maybe because I've done it my whole life, I don't really understand this question. But for me, it's simple. Just give them a glass of water, call on them, petition them to come and sit with you. If you have issues, you can go talk to them about it. They're never far behind. They're always there with you. And you might not know some of your ancestors, but they're going to always know you because your blood is always going to know you. Always. Because you share the same blood running through your veins. Now, I will say this. If they were an ass in real life, they still an ass in death. Don't expect nothing to change. Nothing. If they were loving in life, then as an ancestor, they're going to be a loving person. So you just have to do it and stick with it. Consistency is everything. Don't just go to them when you want something or when you need something. Honor mine once a week. And sometimes during the week, but for sure once a week. I hope that answered that question.
I grew up around my mother, always keeping in mind her ancestors. Like, it was rare the time that we would go exactly to the cemetery, like whenever there was time, of course. But, like she was always busy. She was always working because I lived in El Salvador. Things were tough at the time and stuff. But, coming, to the US, like I just kind of like adhere with living life and whatever. And it wasn't until I came into Conjure that I started honoring my ancestors, because that was the foundation that you taught me. And ever since then, like again, like that's my back to basics. Usually, for anything, I always resort for my ancestors. Like there has been times that I've had a tough time, and like I've gone out there to just voice it out and just have a chat because they are there. But at first, it's just odd. I was very familiar with that, or I'm familiar with that oddness that a lot of people experience at first because it is something new to them. So, like Mama says, definitely just try to throw them in, call on them. And it's on the matter of wording and how you invite those who are willing to help and, build up a relationship with you. And those who are not, then to go away, basically. But you have to voice that out.
And I would say, for clarification, to have a specific spot where you're honoring your ancestors. So if you have an altar, that's going to make every time you go leave an offering that much easier. And my altar's on my north wall for the foundation. And when I call on my ancestors, I knew a handful of them in life that were assholes, and I'm not trying to mess with them. So I call on my ancestors, known and unknown, who have my best interests in mind. So the other ones are not invited in. Welcome. Oh, an important thing for me to keep in mind is if you get a whisper, such as finding a pickle recipe, or, oh, those flowers, you should get those for the house, or whatever. If you get a little whisper like that, to honor that, because that could be a little something from your ancestors, and that just helps to develop that relationship. You might not know the why at the time, but the why will reveal itself. Oh, it's your aunt's birthday, and that's her favorite flower, or whatever the thing is. Question 3 is regarding spirit offerings in scripture. We also received a question about working with spirits through scripture. Are there any Bible verses that you find especially meaningful when calling or honoring animal spirits? And what kinds of offerings would you say are most respectful in that type of work?
I'm going to say that this is where you get your Bible and you hold it in your hands and you ask God to show you what you should be praying. Open the Bible and read the passage that's there. Anything that you want to give as an offering, it's fine to give, even if it's just a flower or a cool glass of water or a candle. There's no set thing that says, there's no law that says, give this, pray this. It all has to come from your heart. It all has to come from you. I could give you a prayer to say, but it probably won't work because that's my prayer. That's what I say to my ancestors. So I would just go with the feeling. And if you don't know how to pray, which I have found there are a lot of folks that don't know how to pray, then just talk it. You don't have to pray it. Just talk it. And that's it. And it'll be accepted.
I would say also, in the previous episode, Mama Star has spoken about asking the spirit, like itself of the animal, like, as you have mentioned animals in this question. So keep that in mind as well. If of course, if it has agreed, assuming that it has agreed to that part, like, and now you're asking for the part on the bibliomancy, then use the bibliomancy as she has suggested.
St. Francis came up for me. I don't know if reading St. Francis for the animal spirits would be helpful. And for me, leaving offerings to animal spirits, being good to the living animals, I think helps the animal spirits. So I don't know if this person's talking about a pet. You be good to the animals that are living. You treat these animals really, really well. And then that resonates with the spirits.
Francis is a good one. But you can also speak to your animal spirit. Ask them. If you're close, like my dog Estella, the little Terminator that she is, I'm very drawn and very attached to her. So I know the things that she liked. Animals are not that much different than people. So I would just go and ask spirit to guide me in that.
Or reach out to us again for more with more specific
Yes,
stuff.
with more questions.
Yeah. And the next question is shut your mouth working. What is
Okay.
something to stop unwanted one-sided aggression or constant troublemaking from someone? How do you approach that type of situation in Old South?
Draw a set of lips on a 7-day candle and cross it out and duct tape it shut and light the candle, and your prayer and petition should be that they shut up, just like the duct tape shut them up. It's easy, simple. Shut their mouth. That's the easiest way to do it, and it does work. It's never let me down. That should stop the problem. If it doesn't, then come back and ask again.
That's when I'd grab the sulfur. We have brought it up already. Maybe mix it with a little bit of alum, poppy seeds. You don't have to always go heavy-handed. Just a little sprinkle out it either in the oil or a mixture that you're making. If you're making a powder of it to use, if you're using a candle, definitely a good way to use that as well. But again, don't go heavy-handed on that.
Well, I mean, you can also write their name on a piece of paper and put it upside down underneath your shoe and go about your life and hope that gets them to step into line.
That's a good one. That's another good one.
Do we have any final thoughts?
Well, just keep it in mind, as the card that showed up at the beginning of the show, it is definitely something to keep in mind that, when things like this shows in regular reading for yourself, that there is things that you need to get to work on in order to turn things around, because it is a flag raised by, ancestors. And it's something that shouldn't be just like, oh man, it sucks. What should I do? Well, get to work, think on ways to conjuring your ancestors, and, using the tools and the advices that my master has given, the bibliomancy. I can assure that there have been times that I have used the Bible in order to get an answer. But, outside of that, of course, I resort to bones and stuff. But keep in mind that there are ways to turning things around, and cleansing is one of those things that you should always begin, especially when you are going to go divine and stuff like that and asking, for guidance. You have to shift from the mundane into actually clearing the thoughts, the lingering thoughts, anything extra that could keep you out of the focus so that you can actually understand the message that is coming through, whether that is bibliomancy or cards or bones, etc., etc. Always keep in mind that little habit of cleansing on the regular, but especially for beginning anything and divination.
And we are at the end of October, and the veil is extremely thin. So if you are ever going to try to develop a relationship with your ancestors, it's a really, really good time to do it. Like Mama Star said, putting out a glass of water, putting out candles, leaving little special foods that they like to eat, putting out photos of your ancestor without you. Don't put the living on your ancestral altar. It's a really good practice to get into all year long, but especially around now. So you can find us on Instagram at The Root and the Flame Show, as well as on YouTube and on Spotify. So follow us there so you always know what is happening. And if you all feel whole, I would like to ask Mama Star to pray us out.
All right. Lord, thank you for this show. Thank you for the blessing. Thank you for the information that you've given us to share. Cover each one of us. Keep us safe, prosperous, and happy. Cover the people that are listening to this show and cover them with blessings. Amen.
Amen.
That's the root and the flame. Magic don't sleep, and neither should you.